Hi everyone, my name is Jen and I'm an art therapist in Canada.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm an art therapist and artist in Liverpool, UK.
And this is our art therapy life.
Ooh.
Bum bum bum.
I feel like because we haven't done it for a few weeks, my brain is like, do I have to say the next bit? I just can't. I can't get
I
my head around it.
know. Well, and like our spaces have changed so much too. Like I remember
Mm.
on our last episode, I was like, I feel like I'm triggering people. I'm changing too much. I don't have stability. So here we are in a nice little podcast container on
It
my end
looks
if you're watching.
really nice. It just looks like it's soothing to look at as well.
Thank
Because
you.
when you said that last time, I didn't really feel like affected. I was like, oh, she's worrying about nothing, like it's fine. And then now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is lovely actually.
I kind of feel like I have my shit together when I look at this.
What is that like? How do I get some of it? What's it like to have one's life together
Just in this bubble.
in this 3 meter square? Everything is good.
In this container. We're
That's a good
fine.
thing. Amazing. How are
Oh my
you?
gosh. Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to talk about our topic this week. It
Me
feels
too.
actually really timely, which is,
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing it fairly early on, but also like not at the beginning. I think it's good.
I got chills
Yeah.
when you said that. I feel like that's really, yeah, agreed. Full-heartedly agreed to that one. So, like, today we're going to be talking about art response.
That's
Oh, this is
it.
my favorite. I love it so much.
Making art. People are always like, what is that? It's the same as
Yeah.
with art therapy. They're like, whoa, what is
Mind
that?
blown.
And it's
I
like
can respond in art.
what it says on the tin. I don't want to be rude. I think it's when you've been asked so many times, you forget
Yeah.
that actually people don't always do this in regular life. So, they don't need to, of course, like know all these art therapy terms that we use just like so easily and throw around. But yeah, maybe we could just explain a little bit what it means to us and when we
Yeah, I'm
started,
really
like,
interested to know
yeah.
like what like how you perceive art response versus like how I perceive it. Because I guess it's like something I'm always curious about is like how other art therapists respond through art or through art response.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your version of it because I imagine that we might have like some overlap and then some kind of
Yeah.
personal differences and choices. And yeah, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
Go for it. Yeah, go
Okay.
for it.
Um, so I think before I was an art therapist, I found artwork in school and used to make things as a kind of, I think because I enjoyed it, but also it helped me process things. So I often had these sketchbooks that would help me process things that are going on in my life, or I've always kind of on and off done journaling as well. So kind of writing and doodling and drawing have all kind of
Mm.
been. So I think I've been responding to my life in art since I was a teenager.
Oh,
So that
that's
felt really
amazing.
normal to me when they on the art therapy program and they were like, "Oh, you need to make sure you're doing this and bringing it and sharing what feels good for you and everything."
Hmm.
But it felt like it had more of a structure when we were in uni in that we would do things as processing our journey was one thing, but then responding kind of in the moment, or how some therapists would make art in session, how then would some would
Yeah.
make after the session. So there was like, it felt like it suddenly became a bit confusing for me at first, I think, to move it from being this sort of emotional challenge space for myself, but
Mm.
also something that I just liked, to being something that actually had a bit of a kind of a formula or a structure to it, in that what I made was completely up to me, but I needed to kind of schedule it in at more specific points.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know? Yeah, that's kind of, I still feel like I haven't quite figured out exactly where it sits. Maybe we'll like get to some sort of
Mm.
resolution by talking about it today.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you?
Um, that's so interesting you said that because I remember a very similar thing happening in my childhood too. Like whenever these huge emotions would come up and I just like didn't have a safe way of expressing them, that was the first thing I'd always grab was my sketchbook.
Mm.
And like, I totally forgot about that. I just remember like angry drawing my emotions like on my bed.
Yeah,
But
totally.
really, I was responding to how I felt about the situation, whatever it was happening at that time. So that's so interesting. I totally forgot about that. But then, like, same thing, like, as I went through grad school, I was like, you can respond with art? Like,
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just blew my mind. And then I think the one thing was I had a professor, it was like at the very beginning of our class, and we were like just making art. I think about like setting intention what we wanted for like the year or whatever, or the semester. And she was responding to each of us individually while we were
Wow.
making this.
Mm,
And like in my head, I had this like whole preconceived notion of like, it's so selfish to make art like in session or like with other people. Like you're the professor, you're the therapist, whatever, you're supposed to hold the space, blah, blah, blah. But then like hearing her explain each piece that she made individually for all of us, I felt so seen and so heard and so validated. And it was just like the most random little things. Like it was like, Jen, you're this shape because this is how I see it. And everyone was laughing because it was so spot on. It was
mm,
like, I think it was something about like, you're very impulsive and that's like a positive strength of yours because you take
mm.
these risks. And everyone was like, duh. She
Yeah.
moved out here from Canada.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I thought it was so awesome. And then I took this like little workshop from an art therapist named Zoe. And I'll put her information like in the link below because she's amazing. Seriously, go follow her stuff. And she did like a whole workshop on like art response for art therapists specifically. And it was creating a self portrait with your eyes closed. And like from that day, I have integrated that into everything I do because it holds so much subconscious information.
Mm. I
I don't know
think,
if that like even explained response art or if I just kind of went in a circle.
I mean, no, I think it made a lot of sense because I think there's a couple of things going on with the idea of art as a response or as a, I think to unpack the kind of the term for me, and it might be different for other people, it feels like the art is being used or I'm making art as a way to kind of process through something or
Mm-hmm.
just to allow the space for maybe some of the feelings and the thoughts that are still there within me to kind of be out of my head or out of my body and onto something in front of me.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't always have to be this like super emo thing that feels like people might paint it as in, you know, in your mind, think it's like when
Yeah.
you're really sad, you like write down all the stuff and then draw really angrily around it. For me, it can be like a really positive and good feeling as
Mm,
well. So making something in all kinds of emotional states. So I think it's, for me, that sort of spontaneous, I quite want to make some art right now. Perhaps there's like a lot going on or some new things, or I'm in a transition, or I want to make through this, or I've just experienced, you know, a session or some intense work with someone in a therapy space. And I want
yeah.
to just kind of see what's swilling around in me after that, or I want to download that so that I can then go into another space with someone else an hour or so later
Mm,
and have enough available for them.
that's
Feels like it's
beautiful.
both of those things for
Totally.
me.
I think it's so many things. So like you said, one, it's a container. So just like how we talk about containers for our clients, I think it's our own personal container because like we're holding all of these different spaces in order to like fully show up for our next client and for ourselves. Sometimes like making this response art is putting it in a container safely and honoring it. So like then another thing can be to honor our clients' stories is by making response art. Another one can be more information in a session. So like if we're kind of stuck, offering that reflection back to our clients. And then even just, then the emotional stuff for ourselves, more emo stuff that we
Yeah.
make. So there's several different ways that we can do response art. I know there was I can't remember if it was at this conference or like another conference in the past year. It was something about they were calling on art therapists to do like research based on response art.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Oh my God, I can't remember where I heard that. Someone was talking about it. Yeah, and then so they had done like an entire thesis, or maybe it was their doctorate they did, and it was solely based on art response research. And I
Wow.
was like, I love that kind of research because it's like my field.
I'm here for it. I can write less
Yeah.
words. I can draw more of it.
But I think that's
That's
like the
heaven.
cool thing about our field is that we get to use our art, our creativity as the language, as our words. So the sky's the limit, really.
No, totally. I mean, do you have, I'm interested to hear about whether you have, like I was saying before, like that structure of how you put response art into your life and profession. Like, do you have a way of ordering it, or do you find it is like impulsive and spontaneous? Or, yeah, I'm curious about it because I think the more art therapists and artists and other kinds of therapists that use it as well, having talked to different people, people seem to kind of, some people are very, very formulaic about it. And it's like, after a
Yeah.
session, I will make this and then I will file it away
Yeah.
here and then I will, and other people aren't. And it's just,
Right.
yeah, I'm curious about how you have it in your kind of life.
Oh, totally. First, I think you said something really cool too, is like anyone can use this. So what came to my head is like, if you're journaling, like if you're a person that likes to journal,
Yep.
like make art that day instead of writing with words to kind of process.
Mm,
So like, I love that, like, we're not the only ones that can use this.
Oh, 100%. It's, yeah, for sure. Cause I go between the two, words and doodling and drawing all the time.
Ugh, totally. Sometimes that's like a mind-blowing revelation for people though. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so I can get like the same kind of benefit, but I can be creative. And then I show people, I have this one journal. It's so funny. It's from grad school. It's like exploding. I have like ties around it to
Oh,
hold it
that's
together.
awesome. That's the best.
But that was like really like art response every single day, and I didn't realize I was doing it. And sometimes I just like go for a walk and be like, oh, this is a cool leaf, and like stick it in the journal, write the date on it.
That's so cool.
Anyways, I digressed. So I found that, I don't know, I've gone back and forth. Okay. I find, obviously, when I have structure, it just feels so much better. And I want to continue to be better at that. Don't we all?
We can definitely talk more about structure. I feel like I keep saying that word because my mind is like so on that at the moment.
Yes, I know. And I know it's like nurturing my inner child when I have routine. But the like chaotic part of me is like, no, rebel.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. She is loud.
But that workshop that I did with Zoe, seriously, changed my freaking life. It was so good. So
Snaps for Zoe.
she's amazing. Like literally the best human. And I want to preface this that this is for professionals. This is not to be used with clients. It's too deep. It can be really triggering.
Oh, right. So what you're about to say is for, yeah.
Yes. How I process my art response for clients is for professionals.
Nice
I've talked
disclosure.
about this with some like colleagues and they're like, I should do this with a client. I'm like, no.
Wait, babe. That's unsafe.
No, that's about you. And we'll talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. Let's definitely circle back to that because the faux pas are real. And yeah, we've had enough experiences to know when it's like, this would actually do some damage right now. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So what I started to do, I was working at a women's treatment facility and it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But I loved the work and like, I love being like in the trenches with these women and hearing their stories. It was like very trauma informed, but it's a lot. Like it's a lot on your psyche to hear these like horrific stories day in, day out.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like I wanted to do response art between like every session, but like that's so unrealistic. Like for the amount of work I had to do and then be like, oh, pause.
Yeah.
Let me hang you up and put you on hold while I do my art.
Can we also circle back to that later as well? The expectation. Like, so we can talk about structure and damage and also expectation. 5 hours long. No, we'll make sure it's not over. But that would be good to circle back to actually. Good prompt. Sorry.
Yeah, so I would just do this at the very end of the day. So even if I was just so exhausted, I made a point to do it at the end of the day. Even if I had to stay like 20 minutes later, it was just like something for me to wrap up the day, for me to leave my work at work, and to like honor and process kind of like what was thrown at me that day. Because right, it's kind of like a whirlwind.
Totally.
You're just like crises, trauma, blah, blah, blah. It just felt really grounding.
Yeah.
So I would do this prompt where you close your eyes and you draw a self-portrait.
Nice.
And it's like, it's going to be just like wild and all over the place. Yeah. But that also brings up things. And then so you cover it without looking at it.
Yeah.
And then you write my thoughts. And so my first thoughts would be, oh my gosh, it's going to look disgusting. It's so weird.
Yep.
I'm going to be missing an eyeball. Did I even draw an eyebrow? Someone's going to judge me if they see this.
Yep. Sorry, I was just paying attention. I was watching Jacob, and then I got to. Sorry, that was me. I'm really bad. Okay. I'm really bad at like having multiple. I'm not a very good multitasker. Terrible.
No, actually, I got really distracted too because the screen went black, and I was like, "Can she still see me?"
Welcome to Monday afternoon recording. Brain's not fully here. I
think we should definitely keep this in the show because this is like very much real life.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this. We don't hold back from knowing that it's most of the time brains are slushy. Yeah, so I'm with you. You were worrying about when you're making the self-portraits if there were certain sections that you're going to have missed completely and you're writing all these thoughts down.
Yes, yeah. And then like kind of where your mind's wandering. Yeah, so I would write down like anything and everything that just came up, no matter like how awful it was.
Sure.
And then you like uncover it and you look at the image.
That's cool, the big reveal.
And then so you write my first thoughts.
Ah, nice.
And so sometimes it would just be like, okay, this is like triggering. So this is why you don't use this with clients because it's that reveal that can bring up a lot of stuff.
Right, yeah.
So it's like specifically for art response. And then, but sometimes I would be so pleasantly surprised with how in alignment I was.
Whoa.
Subconsciously. But you write about this and then you kind of explore like, where is my left eye wandering? Where is my eyebrow? Why are the eyebrows so heavy? Whoa, look how like wild my hair looks today. Is that reflective? Yeah, it totally is.
So you mean in alignment by like, what's going on for you is kind of revealed in the picture a bit.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, so you do like the head and face, but you have to create a container at the bottom. That's like the number one thing. There has to be a vessel.
Sure.
And then so like you just keep writing all these things down and it's so wild, but eventually all these things would come up and they would just kind of honor what I was going through that day and help me process anything that was left over. And then at the bottom, I would write just any extra notes that I wanted to leave in that space. And then in the container, in the vessel, under the body, you make art. No matter how small or big that vessel is. And so I would use that little space to honor a client that made specific art, to honor myself, what I needed, whatever. So I have a few of them here.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like, so let me show you the very first one because you guys are going to lose your minds. This was like day one of treatment center. And I was like, what is happening? Anxiety.
Whoa. So the head comes first. Yeah. Then the writing comes second.
Yes.
And then you reveal the image and write a bit more.
Yes.
But then draw in the bottom.
Yeah. And so like in the bottom of this one, it's like so chaotic. I just needed to scribble. I just needed to scribble.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, so that was week 2. And then as I went along, what happened on this day? Oh, so I'd also write like, this is kind of like what happened on this day, blah, 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 blah. So like this day we started continuing care. And it was like a really beautiful hour to hold space for their stories.
Yeah.
And so like the more I went along, the more they like had kind of like a purpose and were like in containers and stuff like that. And so this was still like not in total alignment, but it just feels a lot safer like as I was going along.
Yeah.
And, I mean, but then like sometimes they look like this.
I was going to say, did you get any that just like,
like
were
just
totally
pure
off the
frustration and chaos. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah. Well, it just looks, it's definitely a lot less colorful, which is
it was just, like I literally at that point at working at this place, I just didn't even have the energy to create art. Like that's just how burnt out I was.
That's a big that's a big indicator for me that something is out of line.
Yeah.
Is if I'm not being creative
Yeah.
anywhere. Like, obviously, you're always, to an extent, having to problem solve in your life or whatever. So there's creativity to an extent all the time for everyone. But if you know you're a maker or you like to make physical art, like when that's switch, do you find that as well? Like when you stop it, it's like
when I'm avoiding it,
right? Because I think when burnout comes for me, there is this in between space where I start to prioritize the thing that I'm obsessing about, like usually work, and then all the nurture just gets sliced one thing after another, and art is always one of the first to go. Totally. And it's so interesting, like something that helps you the most is one of the first, and I think response art is a hugely important regulator for me. So when it's gone,
God, say that again for the people in the back. That was amazing.
I don't know. I can't remember. I just remember the word regulate. Like art response is an essential regulator for me, I think. And I think that's why it goes first, because I slice it out the way, and then underneath it, because the regulator's gone, the choices can be as brutal as I need them to be. So like then yoga goes, then whatever else. And I wouldn't slice them up maybe so dramatically if I had the regulator still. Wow. That's kind of,
whoa.
That feels very vulnerable, actually.
Holy crap.
I feel very exposed. Am I still wearing clothes? I don't feel like I am. That's one, it's big. So
wow.
And sorry, we went off into a different space.
That was so necessary. And I feel like that just clicked like 50 things in my brain when you said that.
Just seeing that third one. Do you mind sharing that again? The third one that was like just the scribbles.
And like the only thing I wrote was not wanting to make any art. Fuck life. Enough said. And that was when my best friend had passed away.
Right.
So it was just like chaos.
Yeah, literally.
And then like at the very end of like when I was like so burnt out at working in the treatment center, this one I find really interesting is that like, you know, when you're so anxious and stressed, like your memory goes. This has like 2 sets of eyes, 2 sets of noses, 2 sets of mouths. And it's like I forgot in that small space.
Wow.
Like the anxiety was so high. And then like look at the art. Like it just couldn't be contained.
You know what it is as well on that? It's the base of it. Can you hold it up a tiny bit? I know we're going to put it in like pictures, but
yeah,
the base of that being so dark.
Yeah.
Like I go straight to that. Like I forget you and go straight to the bottom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was like always so much information in this. And I also found that like clients would come through. Like I'd be like, this looks like that client. What am I missing about them? What am I still holding on that's theirs and not mine?
Whoa. That's the thing. Do you find this like as a creative therapist, these kind of exercises mean that you can it's almost like if you spilled like a whole thing of jelly or like 2 persons sets of sweets or something and it all combines and you're sort of trying to separate things out into colours or where the oranges go, where the purples go, if you wanted, for some reason you wanted to do that. Yeah. And I just feel like in that art response space, you can just separate and like, okay, the orange Skittles, that's not mine. The purple ones, that is. Just because like, how do you...
Totally.
Especially when someone shares something with you that is very close for you.
Yes.
Things can get very... Well, we talked about it, didn't we, a couple of episodes ago about transference and counter-transference. And so if someone's projecting something onto you that's actually very close, like understanding or taking time to think about what you're transferring back or what's coming back naturally for you and how you manage that. Because even in the session, if you can hold it together, which obviously we should, afterwards, there's like this space of like, whoa, that was a lot actually. And I don't want to just talk about it right now because I'm not even sure I could.
Yeah.
I think, you know what? You've inspired me. I think I'm going to start doing that I might even ask you to text me afterwards and remind me of that order again. Because I know we've talked about it a few times and every time I think, Because the combo of words and pictures, that's a winner for me.
Yeah. It like taps into like those other corners in our brain.
Yeah. That's amazing.
But
Thank you for sharing all
of
those.
course, yeah. And I think you're so right. It's like the countertransference piece for me that it like keeps me accountable. Because like that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Is like moving our stuff out of the way. We're not supposed to have our stuff in session. It's not about us. And like especially around times like I was saying, like when my friend had died and I had to go into a trauma center and hold space for 12 women in a group that are also grieving their own stuff, experiencing their trauma, trying to be in recovery. Like, yeah, I didn't finish it and yeah, it was super messy, but that's like how I was honoring my stuff and able to also honor. And it's not saying, okay, just make a response art and you're good to go. But like for me in that time, in addition to working with my therapist, that like really helped keep me grounded
Yeah.
and honor my stuff without bringing up resentment that, okay,
Right.
I can be here for them, but like, what about my stuff? I still was able to honor my stuff.
Yeah, I think that that's a big word for me in that you've said. I think so much can come, I think, in terms of clarity and also just a resilience and ability
Yeah.
can come through feeling more great. It's like with anything, like at the moment I'm thinking about this all the time because I'm taking driving lessons. When I'm coming around a corner and just like do not slow down for it, it's way more stressful for me
Yeah.
than if I do the steps in advance or do the things that enable me to move around with more ability and options. And I
Yeah.
think response art is that it doesn't have to take that long, but it's like a stopping, isn't it? That
Yeah.
grounds you. Because I feel like as a therapist or anyone in life really, you can get very quickly swept into the next
Oh,
thing.
totally.
So by the end of the day, you're like those, those buckaroo. Did you have those in Canada? Those buckaroo toys that are like a big donkey that you put like bags on and eventually it just goes because it just
No, this
can't.
sounds amazing.
It's like really stressful game. Like it's on like a timer thing, but you don't really know when it's going to go, and you don't want to be the person that sets it off.
Oh, it was called something else and it was like shapes and you'd like put the
Yeah,
shapes in.
but it's like so but like that's you can get through the end of the day and be like, I have 27 lots of stuff on me. I'm gonna blow. I need to
Yeah,
download some of this somehow, but yeah, it's amazing. I think that's a really cool
totally.
exercise. I like that.
Um,
I'm gonna hold that in mind.
Thanks. Honestly, Zoe, I'll leave it below. Check her out.
She's the woman. She's the woman. So good.
um, but do you make response art in your sessions?
So I had a weird experience, which was really helpful for me actually. When I
Okay.
worked, my second placement at uni was at Studio Upstairs, which is like a therapeutic community. No, it's not. It kind of is. It is, but it's not like a facility where people
Right.
they don't live there all the time. But it's an art studio that people would access, and they would have various mental health conditions or physical health conditions. And it was a space where they could be referred to come and make art. But lots of people that would come were artists in their own rights. All the people that were working there alongside them would also be art therapists, but also artists that were practicing. So you'd all be making artwork in the studio all day. But you're also, so everyone's referred to as an artist in the space, rightly so, because everyone was. But the studio kind of, I guess, art therapists were called studio managers, really. But we're all
Yeah.
making art. People would often exhibit together. People would go to each other's art shows. Like it was a very different space to what I'd been doing on like wards and in prisons and things where it's so, the hierarchy is so established. Whereas
Yeah.
this, it kind of flattened it a bit. I don't think you can ever completely remove it, but I think it's one of the kind of versions of a flattened hierarchy space that I was able to experience. And it was awesome because I actually felt that you could have conversations about art where I would learn so much from other people, and our kind of, whether we were employed or kind of coming as a member was in that moment was irrelevant.
Right.
Which actually changes a lot, your experience as a professional.
Yeah.
And we were all making art, and we all had the opportunity to have a pin up around the room for a couple of weeks. You'd leave your work up and then you'd do a talk. So the artist members and the artist managers would sort of each, at some points across the year would do that. So that was really different, kind of actually making art and then putting it up. And it was like opening up, your chest a
Totally.
bit, because it's like,
So vulnerable.
but it's also, I experienced, and I think in a sense I wasn't thinking about it as response art because there was a slight reduction in freedom because I was making sure that I wasn't going to like be too exposed, or I was making sure that maybe some of the things I would do quite a lot of art afterwards at home to process some of the things I was actually feeling. And obviously I was writing my dissertation at the time about, I mean, they knew I'd asked their permission, but one of the artists there and some of our relationship. And so I did a lot outside of the space to process it. So I didn't do, I don't think I did like full honesty in there because I don't think that was helpful or safe. And again, I don't want to take up space that's not mine. But you are making, so you are kind of, but it pushed me into like a slightly more abstract space because I felt that then I could respond to what was going on around me or what I wanted to make without being too obvious or like, because I was conscious of being like not wanting to be triggering or making it all about me or whatever. But then also had this sort of duty to the other artists in the room that we were all making, and everyone felt more relaxed. Like that came up quite a lot, that people would be like, you know, when everyone is involved in the making and the conversation together, it was a better space for the members as opposed to someone sort of sitting there and not getting involved. So you had to find your space within that. And obviously because of it was being really different and weird to me, amazing, but definitely new. I was obviously responding all the time in my artwork. Like it was, you know, different personalities, different skills, different things people were showing me, then I would try them out, like textures or printing or whatever. It was awesome. And at first I really didn't know what to do. So I did start with, I made a coil pot because I like making like hand rolled ceramics things. And that really helped me because for so long I just had to smooth it out for like quite a number of days actually. And it was really good because I was making and responding, but I was really present in the space and I could do it by I could switch a bit of me off and be available to others. But there was something, I think, in the smoothing of that really helped me transition into the space. So I think choosing that helped me respond to the nerves that I was feeling about being somewhere new that was really different and where I had to find a balance in. And so that's my experience of in space making. But also any other space I've done it has been one of these similar spaces where it's afterwards that's been you're an art teacher and an art therapist, and just that experience of placement really helped me manage now a sense of how to like have an awareness of the group before me but not completely check me out. So how to step into that and make things. And sometimes with certain groups you can tell that being involved and also doing the exercise would be helpful, and other times you can tell that it's really not. You can't always, and you don't always get things right, but it's just a sense of I'm always reminding myself, do not get so engrossed in your response art in this space or your art making of any kind in this space that you then take away from.
Absolutely.
So and some people invite you to make, and you have to kind of in that moment make a decision. How does this? And I think with some clients, you know, you've got space to take that to supervision. You always should. But yeah, it's a weird thing being in the session. So I would quite often boundary myself by saying afterwards, I can really investigate this. But now I need to be, I'm going to be active. I'm making that choice to be in the making, but to what percentage, and how do I how do I keep a sense of respect for the client's time? And stuff.
Totally.
If that all makes sense. I feel like hopefully I've explained that okay.
No, that was amazing. That was so good. Because when I was in grad school, I had like a very opposite experience to that, but very so similar kind of setting. It was like a studio summer course that we had. And I'm not going to name names or anything like that. But I felt that the professor became too engrossed in their own personal work in the space. And it brought up so much resentment. Because I was so used to always being the caretaker for everyone else, and it brought that up again, that I didn't have someone to just hold space and care for me. Even if it's just not making everything about them, how it felt in that
Sure.
moment, you know? And
Mm,
so, like, I think you're so right. It's like a very delicate
mm,
balance of how much art do you make? How
yeah.
far do you go into it? Do
Mm,
you share it? Do you not? And so, like, I would love to hear from other art therapists because I feel like other art therapists I've seen
mm.
have done this so beautifully.
I
And
think
like,
it's,
is it
oh, sorry.
different in person versus
Mm,
online? Because I feel
yeah.
like I can do a lot more response art online.
Mm,
And I think it's just, I don't know, maybe my own fear and stuff like that. But in
mm,
person, I'm so hesitant. I'm constantly like running that through my brain, like,
yeah.
am I triggering
Sure.
someone? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? So I'll find
Mm,
myself like just picking up a magazine and like flipping it
yeah.
as if I'm like looking for collage stuff or just like scribbling back and forth. Because I never want to like put the client out and think, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they're making something and it's so much better than me.
Mm. Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? I think you can't turn off the fact that you are responding to other things that are in this space. And we were always taught in uni that if you make artwork in a group, it belongs to the group. And
Oh,
it's
I
quite,
love that.
it's quite a big, and some places that you'll work, like things are really clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
So
Totally.
this, your art responding is something that's outside of the session, absolutely non-negotiable. And then other places are like this therapeutic community I was in, you have to make art in the space. So
Yeah.
in some ways it's an adjustment, but at least there's a clear, like, I know where my art responding is going to be. And if it's in the space, I'm going to end up doing both. So afterwards in a much more deep personal way, and
Totally.
inside I'm going to potentially, I'm just going to experiment more with textures and patterns, something that I feel like I can engage in without completely losing myself. Like you felt, that
Mm-hmm.
choose, because your availability for others is primary. So
Yeah.
that in some ways felt okay. It's when it's been anything in between where it's like you are sort of allowed to set your own, and maybe this is more
Private
like
practice.
private practice where you're like, oh, I don't know what feel. And obviously with
Yeah.
certain clients, you might get a sense that they will tell you, or they invite you, or they're quite.
Yeah.
Some people are really clear in this is their space. I need you to just
Mhm.
sit. Let me make this, and then we'll talk about
Yeah.
it. That's what I think is interesting about art responding. There's a fluidity to where it's going to come into your practice and your life.
Totally.
Um,
And people
and
that are coming
yeah,
out of grad school,
mm,
um, trust your gut.
yeah,
I think that's like my biggest takeaway in this like whole response art thing after
mm,
doing this for like a few years is like
mm,
trust your gut.
yeah, and ask yourself the question, like, who am I primarily focused on right now?
Who is this
Um,
about? Yeah.
yeah, I think that's been a big one for me. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
who is this about right now? And um, it's been I've been lucky, really, since doing my own thing, that the stuff I do in prisons, especially if I end up having a decent sized group, there isn't space for me to make in sessions, and it's not really what I'm being asked by the client group. So
Hmm.
I got
Yeah.
that clear cut line again, where I'm back into
Yeah.
a space where
Totally.
I might show someone, and because I'm teaching a little bit too, at the beginning of the space, so I might show someone a technique or something, but then the
Yeah.
space for the rest of it is very much about them making and sharing, and us going through things together, and then sharing the art at the end, and then there isn't any more
Mm,
space. And I think that, so I know what my role is there,
absolutely.
and that just comes with having been used to that environment. So, but if private
Totally.
practice, like, what the heck, what do you do in private practice? Like, where does it
I like,
fit?
well, I like really tune into like my gut feeling. Like
Mm,
I feel like that's a big compass for me.
yeah,
And also just like really watch like the social cues.
right, yeah.
Like, are they so awkward? Because I'm just like
This is
staring at them.
it.
And so if I
Yeah,
pick up on that, I might just go grab like a piece of charcoal and like start doodling. I might not be doing anything at all,
just
but just
softening the
like the
space.
doodling part.
Mm,
Yeah. Just so it feels like we're both making something in that space.
yep,
And
yep.
9 times out of 10, they won't ask me
Right,
to like
okay.
reflect on anything. But sometimes if I've like had a really long relationship with a client and
Mm,
we've like built up this trust,
mm,
um, sometimes I'll offer back a response, but it's just like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like a
mm,
gut intuitive thing like, I think they're going to benefit from hearing this instead of me saying it. And so I'll make like something small as they're making art and then we'll talk about it. But it's like very rare that I'll do
Yeah.
that. And it has to be done like very tactfully.
I think as well, like, if in doubt and you're thinking about it, you've not been asked in the space, you've got to make some sort of split decision or whatever.
Mm.
Just like talk to your supervisor about it. Like talk to someone that
Oh,
is more
I
experienced than
love
you.
that. Yeah, totally.
Like let them allow, because you don't know what's going on potentially for you in that space with that client.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone over that ground before, there could be any
Yeah.
kind of transference that you need to talk to the supervisor about. And also, I think I've had the odd time in spaces with people where I just don't feel able to make a decision about something right there and then. And people respect the fact that you are in a professional supervision relationship. And it's like, you know what? That's really interesting. And I would, obviously, if it's safe to do so, to be like, I'd like to think about that. And then can we discuss it next week? Or,
I love that.
and
So good.
when you've got the space to do that. And when, I think as well, it's like you say, it's like anything. It comes with a bit of experience of learning when things work and when they seem a bit clunky, or as long as you're making art responses somewhere, I think, and definitely whichever way you end up doing them, make them in your own space. I want to come back, to that a bit about, what was I saying before? It's about like structure. We've talked about that a bit, but like, I think in life, if it's a big sweeping statement, I think if everyone could have some sort of version of a creative activity that they do fairly regularly, and for some people I completely accept it doesn't look the same. It might be sports for people or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like something that is a regular outside of work, outside of family, outside of friends, and outside of activity that contributes to in any of those areas. Something that is yours that can be either private or shared. But it's benefited me so much to have some privacy, just to put things from your mind through your body into a different space, and notice if something that you've always done disappears, and have a think about why that might be.
Really?
Because I think it's interesting. Because I made a picture for today, and I'm okay to share it?
Yeah, let's see it.
It's a good time.
I feel like this has gone by so fast. We're
I know,
almost
right?
at an hour. I know.
But that's the picture. I don't know how much you can see it. So it'll go up on the screen anyway. But I made it today, and I haven't made something for me for a very, very long time, it feels. I'll just read the words, and then I'll pop it back up. So the middle, it's a woman sat on a couch kind of looking in the distance, and then another picture of a woman looking in the distance. And then I've kept the cutout of the woman's head, like the piece of paper that I cut it out from.
Yeah.
I put that down as well. And the words say, since there seemed no point in burning herself out scintillating, which I think is like shining bright, she too sat and stared. And at the bottom it says, it was no life. She gave it up. And it was just for when words, this is why I can't make my normal work of art responses in any kind of therapeutic community or shared space, because I use so many words. I like subtitle my pictures basically.
Yeah.
And I can't do that, but I could do it without the words in it, for example, and it might be something to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because collages can be so abstract. It's kind of a nice, some of them are really clear, but some of them are really, and you can deny a lot of things when they're just pictures.
I think that what was also coming to a head is like, if you had it really blank, allowing clients to kind of project on that and see like what comes up for them.
I think I definitely benefited from having that experience in the therapeutic community, but having to make art to that level in all the spaces that you were with clients, I think was probably a bit too much for me.
Yeah.
Because I had to be I couldn't really make what I
Yeah.
wanted
Okay.
to. Um,
Yeah.
so I ended
Absolutely.
up, but weirdly, it was the best year for me creatively in some ways because I was making all that stuff in there that was I was regulating to make sure it was safe. And then outside, I was making all the real kind of response to the fact that I was having to make all this stuff with clients. So I was just like churning out. So in terms of my like processing and well-being overall, it's brilliant because I was constantly making art about everything. Because it was so in my weekly structure to be creative. I just like
So good.
I find the more I make, if that makes sense. Like you go,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. If I try
Totally.
and schedule it to be these little bursts, if I overschedule it, it doesn't work. I just have to kind of let it flow a bit more rather than like trying to put
Yeah.
too many. But I think, yeah, I think I've been doing a lot of thinking recently about my. It's been a nice thing to make something today. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the pace that I run at life.
Mm,
So when I found those words, it was just like, yeah,
mm.
that sort of sums it up really. It felt quite pensive and nice, and it felt really complete really quickly. But it was a lovely, and I did it on the first page of a new notepad, which was nice.
Oh, that's always so satisfying.
So it feels like a bit of a challenge to maybe do like similarly to your thing to do something like one a
Ooh.
day
Does it
or
feel like
just
the start of like a new chapter?
I feel like because I was thinking about talking about this, yeah, and I was aware that like I wanted to make something in advance, like we always do.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that little gateway in. Maybe that's a good thing. Oh, do you have a picture that you've made for today as well? I didn't want to press you
Yeah.
in case you didn't, because you shared so much already. It's so nice.
Yeah. And I was laughing. So,
We need a good laugh. We've been quite serious.
um, so I did naturally a self portrait, and I haven't
Love
done
it.
one in a really long time.
Oh, so
And
good.
so, like, my thoughts were distracted. The dog was going to poop on the floor. Am I connected? Oh my God, I have to show this on the show. What if it's hideous? What if it isn't?
Yeah.
Had to go let the dog out.
I love that. What if it's hideous? What if it's not?
And then the first look, ha 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 ha. Of course, I am humbled.
Love it.
I don't know if you can see her.
Oh, wow.
She's just all over the place.
She's wild.
Like literally just reflected
I'm
how the
obsessed.
dog's gonna like take a crap on the floor. The cat's like probably into something. I have to like go let him
Literally.
out. Oh my gosh. And then I said, it's not about being perfect to model our journey on the show. My hope is to be authentic in all ways. And this is mine. Where are her eyes creeping to? The dog. I'm fading, but my container is sturdy.
Yeah.
If I shift my head, I will feel contained. A bit all over. This feels accurate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good. Can we see it? Can I see it again?
Yes. So it's like
I
really
love it.
interesting because like I had a brand new pen.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's going to focus. But it went really light. But the container is very dark, so I felt very safe in that.
Oh, can you lift it up a little so I can see I know everyone can see it on this big screen, but oh yeah, it's all like one color in the bottom as well, like not like blended or scribbled, or it's all like it looks kind of solid, yeah, sturdy.
Yeah, so I used this like really pretty watercolor set that I have. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. This is the thing nowadays as well. Like, I feel like there's so many ways you can access creativity in a small amount or a big amount in terms of like buying equipment, but also like going to workshops where you can dip your toe into stuff.
Yeah.
That people, I think you can find something that suits you, even if you're not a therapist or you're creative or you're someone that's maybe thinking about doing art therapy down the line, or if you're just curious after we've talked about it to be like, oh, what's it like to make stuff regularly? There's so many ways you can dip your toe in.
Totally.
Because you might find there's just like, I mean, I've got a few people in my life that don't massively make art regularly, but they've got like one thing that really suits them. Or something that they found actually, they were like, oh, I'm actually kind of naturally fairly decent at this. Like I'm like going, for example, I love the slow coil pot making, but I'm terrible on the wheel. But I really it's a weird space for me because I really enjoy doing it. I'm just not very good on the wheel. It's so fast, but I find the process of it and how messy it makes me when I can't do much about the fact that it's just going to go everywhere really good. So I feel awesome after that. And I've got a few like friends have done, and they're like, this is really nice. Like I just go and do like a posture class like once every couple of months and just really enjoy it. And now I'm slowly building up some skills. I might do a bit more, or there's so many different people sharing different ways. I think response art doesn't have to be just for professional people or therapists
no. And it doesn't
not
have
at
to be
all.
like generally about your day. You can literally respond to anything, like a
Yeah,
person, a place, a thing, an event,
totally.
a
Exactly. Like
job.
just it's that kind of, maybe we could do like a little quick like how to get started with it if you want to, or you want to do it more.
Yeah.
In terms of, I think the biggest thing good advice I got from someone was about like not overly thinking about what it's processing. Like don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just make something, and you might end up never knowing what it's about, but it's just like loosening something up, or it's just
Yeah.
de-stressing you if you really are stressed about something, or just don't
Totally.
overthink it. Just try something new or something you like, and just give it a little go.
Totally.
I think that's a good place
Totally.
to start.
I always tell clients, like, what are you craving today in terms of like art materials? Like, if you just sit down,
Yeah.
like, what is that first craving you have that you want to grab? Is it a pen? Is it crayons? Is it paint? Go with it. Don't question it. Don't second guess it.
Yeah.
Trust it and go with it. And it doesn't matter what it looks like after that.
No, 100%. I think sometimes I've got like, a few friends that have said, I'd quite like to make art. Like, I would love to have a job that made me sort of make art regularly. And it's like, you really don't need to have it as your job. You can give it a go. Just
Totally. Yeah.
Or like even when you're on the phone to someone, or like just have a pad near you so you can just doodle. And there's something about doodling that I think is super underrated.
Yeah.
Because you're really not focusing on it being good or being this perfect thing. So actually all it ends up doing is kind of just letting your hand do something while you're thinking. And there's a reason lots of people doodle and fidget. It's soothing.
Yeah.
And that's what I think art response, if you don't have to do it in a professional capacity, you can definitely do it in a life capacity. It's not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're not
absolutely.
territorial about it. We don't just like hold on to it. No one can make response art unless you've done the master's degree and lived through hell. We love our jobs, but it's the master's degree is a lot. But I really like, I don't know about you, I found that over the years of doing it now, it's, you notice things in yourself. It's like I said before, that when it's a part of your rhythm and then it goes away, or you stop doing something, or you avoid it, you notice it. It's a really helpful space of keeping a bit of a track of yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it's not just, it's really important for processing clients and holding personal and intense things that they give us, but it's also just to like give you a bit of a thermometer of how things are going.
Totally. Especially because our brains are so good at protecting us and being like, la, 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 I'm going to put my fingers in my ears and it's fine.
Yeah.
But our
exactly.
bodies are like, yo, what is happening? Hi, come over here and look at us for a minute. We're not okay. We're burning out over here.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's just more information.
Amazing. No, so I feel like we're coming to a close very soon.
I know.
Is there any
I don't like
burning?
it.
I know, that was too much. I feel like, because it's an easy topic for us to talk about, in a sense. Not easy that it's easy, but we just flow about it because we talk about it all the time. So I feel like, is there anything burning that you're like, I've got to tell the people about this before we go?
I wish I had something like that.
I mean, maybe we've just circled around it. I think I'm just really glad that I have it in my life, like this space to express. And I would highly recommend going to a creative space, or if you've got a friend that is arty and goes to workshops or something, just asking people. Or like, it's a good Christmas present. Like, get yourself and your friend or your partner or whoever, like, 2 tickets to go to something,
Mm-hmm.
and just try something out and see how it feels to just let loose a bit in a creative space, especially if you've never tried it. You might find it's definitely not for you, but you might be surprised.
Totally. Oh,
That's
on
the
that, I want to do
challenge.
a little plug then.
Oh yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Well, I offer online art studio, so anyone in the world
Oh,
can
amazing.
join, and it's
So good.
$11. 11
Sorry.
Canadian dollars for two
Amazing.
hours of just like coming to make space alongside other people.
That's so good.
Perfect stocking stuffer. Write a little coupon for $11 and stuff it in there.
That's so good, actually, because
Yeah, I offer it once a month, so
that's brilliant. And it's so good to make, if you're a bit not sure where to start, especially, so good to make
yeah,
something in the space with other people.
yeah.
And I did quite a few collage workshops in the lockdown online, and it definitely still works. It feels different, but it definitely works in that you still feel like a community sense around it instead of being like
Yeah,
having to buy a sketchbook and not knowing what to do with it, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone go and do some online studio with Jenn, because as you've known from the show, she's super nice as well, so that helps.
I would love to have people all over the world come join
Yeah,
because I think
come
that's
on.
so fun.
I think Scousers need to be everywhere because we're the best. So
Yeah.
let's get involved.
Okay, I guess that's it.
That's it. It's been good to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I've missed this, and I've missed everything.
I feel like I really need to go make some more art about how this feels. I feel like, yeah, self-portraits, here we come.
Okay, awesome. And if anyone wants to make their own response art and share it with us,
Amazing.
feel free to DM us or tag us in your response art because obviously we're going to hype girl you up.
Always. That's amazing. Thanks
Okay,
so
bye
much.
everyone.
Bye.